Good morning. We are back to the study of the Mediums book, which is the third Sunday of the month. Elmo, unfortunately, couldn't be with us here. So last month, we were studying the special mediums. This is chapter 16, special aptitudes of the mediums. We went through the division, talking about mediums of physical effects. We talked about mediums of intellectual or intelligent effects. Again, mediums of physical effects are those that are capable of producing physical phenomena. Physical phenomena are phenomena that everyone present in the place and around the place will see, feel, hear. So it is a physical effect. Mediums of intellectual or intelligent effects are mediums that will receive the communication from the spirits via the perispirit to perispirit connection, and will manifest that effect through psychography, which is writing, psychophony, which is talking, by hearing, by seeing. There is some phenomena that would be more psychic than medium, because a medium is one that receives a communication from the spirit. A psychic is one that is using their own abilities. So a seeing medium that goes to the spiritual world and comes back and relays what he or she has seen is a psychic, because it's not acting as a medium. Someone that goes to seeing medium, that goes to the spiritual world, talks with a spirit and brings a communication from a spirit, is acting as a medium, because it's not his or her own action. So we went through the different types of mediums of intelligent effects, different aptitudes, and we talked about mediums psychographic, mechanic, semi-mechanic, intuitives, writing, speaking, and we are going to start on item 191. Okay? So we are going to see varieties of writing mediums. Important here is to remember that at the time of Kardec, when he was producing all this work, the really important type of medium for Kardec was the writing mediums, of course, because they didn't have recording instruments. They couldn't record the mediums. If a medium was doing communications through psychophony, either someone would have to write very quickly what the medium was saying, or they had no ability to save what the communication was. So in terms of leaving it for the work that Kardec was doing, writing mediums were the relevant medium, the most important medium at the time of Kardec. So that's why he will focus a lot on the study of the mediums, psychographic mediums or writing mediums. Okay. Nowadays, of course, we have different types of mediums, and with the ability to record, the ability to of different ways of preserving of the mediums are saying. Of course, other types of mediums become as important as the writing mediums. But at the time of Kardec, they were the more important ones. So that's why Kardec spends more time on them. But for us, it's very good, because there is a lot of different types of mediumships here that we are going to go through, and will give us an idea of how mediumship works in general, because the writing mediums, the type of writing mediums, can many times be applied to other different types of mediums. Okay, maybe Fabio will join us later, and because he's the writing medium that we have here. But anyways, I'll ask also Rogério and Alessandra if they have anything to add here, as both are the mediums that are here with us today. Okay, Soraya, can you read here? You need to increase the letter.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Varieties of writing mediums. 191. Number 1. According to the method of execution, writing or psychographical mediums, those who have the ability to write by themselves while under the influence of spirits. Mechanical writing mediums, those who write by receiving an involuntary impulse of their hand without being conscious of what they are writing. Very rare. Semi-mechanical mediums, those who write under an involuntary impulse of their hand, but who are immediately conscious of the words and sentences they are writing. The most common. Intuitive mediums, those who receive communications from spirits mentally, but who write by their own will. They differ from inspirational mediums who do not necessarily have to write. Intuitive mediums, on the other hand, register thought, which is rapidly suggested concerning a specific topic. These are quite common, but they are also very prone to error because they often cannot discern what comes from the spirit from what comes from themselves. Polygraphical mediums, those who change their handwriting according to the communicating spirit, or who have the ability to duplicate the handwriting that the communicating spirit exhibited during its lifetime. The former is very common. The latter, identical handwriting, is rarer. Polyglot mediums, those who have the faculty of speaking or writing in unknown languages, very rare. Illiterate mediums, those who write only as mediums, since they can neither read nor write in their normal state. Much rarer than the preceding types. There is a greater physical difficulty to overcome.
Thanks. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So when we're talking about writing mediums, okay, there is again, mediumship is a association of perispirit to perispirit. So the communication is done through the mental side of the spirit communicating and the mental side of the medium receiving the communication. Now, how this communication is transmitted, okay, is what can vary here. So, writing psychographical mediums are those who have the ability to write by themselves while under the influence of the spirit. So they are receiving the communication of the spirit and writing. Okay, again, as I mentioned before, the most important one at the time of Kardec. That's why we have all the books and all the codification. Now, amongst this type of mediums, like the other mediums, also the psychophony mediums are the same, psychography and psychophony, speaking and writing. You have three types: the mechanical, the semi-mechanical, and the intuitive, right? So the mechanical are the ones that receive an involuntary impulse of their hand. So the medium is writing, the spirit is acting directly on their hand. It's not going brain to brain, okay? It is the spirit acting directly on the hand of the medium and the medium writing it. It's very rare, as Kardec says. The most known example that we have in Spiritism is Chico Xavier, who was a mechanical medium. He was able to write at the same time with both hands and talk with other people while doing it. Of course, it was not the way that he was working most of the time. Most of the time, he was receiving only one communication, writing it, and people would sit next to him and change the paper as he he was writing. He used pencil because a pen could stop, the ink could dry or something with a pencil. If it broke, they gave him another one. There were several pencils. So that was the way that he was writing. So the semi-mechanical mediums are the ones that at the moment that the spirit communicates to the medium is writing what is coming. So the medium receives the communication immediately. The medium is not conscious of the communication, but becomes conscious as he or she writes it. So the moment the medium writes the words, he or she becomes aware of what's being written. Okay, that's the semi-mechanical, and according to Kardec, is the most common. And the intuitive mediums are the ones that receive the communication mentally, process it, and then write. So they register the thought in the topic, and then they write what they receive. This is the one that is more prone to mistakes, of course, because the medium is actually writing out of their own thoughts. They receive a communication. That's the one that may cause the medium to doubt him or herself more, because you never know if it's you or if it's the spirit communicating. Fabio, welcome. We're going to ask you to help us here today. We're talking about different types of psychographic mediums, okay? And I mentioned the 3 types, and Elmo gave a very good example a long time ago, and every time I talk about these different types of medium, I always use the example, because it's an example that is very good for all of us nowadays, right? So you have a computer, your computer is having issues, and if you call a technician, let's say you work in a company like Rogério, right? Work in a bank, and then your computer has a problem, and you call IT, and someone comes to help you. So there are 3 ways that IT can help you on your computer. They can tell you what to do. You listen to them. So you go there and they'll press settings, and then you go open the window, and then you do this and you do that. You go there and do what they told you to do. This is the intuitive medium, right? So you are doing what the IT guy is telling you to do. So you are thinking about it. So, and of course, the chances of you making a mistake is bigger, right? Because you are executing what someone told you. You can forget, you can press the wrong key. Now, the semi-mechanical medium, the IT guy is telling you, press this, press that. And as he tells you, you press, you go to settings, you go to do this, and you go to that. You are not really thinking much on what to do. You are doing what he tells you. So the moment you do it, you know what he's telling you to do, but you are not thinking about it before doing it. And the mechanical medium is when the IT guy says, okay, give me access to your computer, and I'm going to work on your computer remotely, right? So you are there in front of your computer. You give access to the guy is working on your computer, you are looking at it. You can interrupt at any time if you want to, okay? There is these programs that you can use today. One of them is called AnyDesk, that you give access to a remote access to your computer, and you can interrupt at any time. And the medium is the same thing. So these are the 3 different types of mediums. The most common one, both on psychographic or psychophonic, is the semi-conscious, right? Meaning you you are talking or writing what the spirit is telling you or passing to you. And as you talk or as you write, you become aware of what you are doing. That's the most common one. The mechanical is the most rare one, but it is, of course, is the wish dream of all mediums is to be a mechanical, because then you don't interfere. It's the spirit is working through you, and this is the one that is most accurate because there is no interference, practically no interference from the medium. Okay. And then the semi-mechanical, there is some interference, but the communication is pretty much not filtered, in the sense that the medium is able to control the language, the medium is able to control, express the emotions, but control the language. But normally, it's also a type of cleaner more than the intuitive, because the intuitive, the medium is really participating in the communication, and there is a bigger chance of the medium interfering in the communication for according to their own thoughts or their own tendencies. Okay, any questions or comments here? Okay, so Kardec then talks about the polygraphical mediums, which are those that change their handwriting according to the communicating spirit. These are the mediums that have the ability to write in different handwriting according to what the spirit is used to do. Identical is very rare, because you would need to have special abilities to reproduce. But it is not uncommon. We heard and seen mediums being able to write in the handwriting of the spirit. At the time of Kardec, he mentioned some. In Chico Xavier had some of them also, Divaldo. But most common is just the handwriting a little bit modified, in the sense of sometimes the medium has a difficulty in reading what they wrote. I know Fabio writes and sometimes struggles to read what he wrote. So maybe he can describe a little bit the process of his psychographic messages, Fabio. Fabio, there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I know that when we receive psychography, sometimes you struggle to read what you have written. Can you describe a little bit the process and why this difficulty, why the process of writing becomes a little bit more challenging than your regular writing?
Sure. For me, and again, I think it's very important to say that it's specifically me, the kind of
Yes.
medium that I am, when the work that I've been doing 2 years and all that. For me, it happens that majority of the communications, it feels like they are the written ones are sort of dropped into the meetings. It's almost it feels like the quality of the spirits don't feel the need to stay in the density of the meeting. So the way that I see it, it's almost like someone threw from a plane a bit of information, and that information stays with me for as a strong memory for the duration that I'm writing it, and then it goes away. And then if another communication happens in the same evening, I don't remember them. I just, when I read later is what I remember what happened. And in few instances that I remember in all these years, in few instances I remember that I felt that my hand was going through, it felt like someone was helping my hand writing. I only felt that
So the
twice.
mechanical
Right.
psychography.
Yeah. And I
Um,
remember that also I kept all the written messages that I got all the years at the center, and I do have examples occasionally where the handwriting is different as well. It doesn't look like my handwriting, but the majority that I get from the center are in my own handwriting. But as again, it's like a strong message that someone just mentioned to me, and it stays uh, vivid as long as I'm writing, and then it goes away.
and do you feel the need to write faster because you are, or
Yeah,
it's the
I guess it's because of me. I'm afraid of losing the meaning, but it's very helpful too because they do go by stages, it seems. It's a funny, it feels like, someone behind you told you, whisper something in your ears, and you just have to take it down.
quickly?
Uh, yeah, quickly because you're afraid of losing. There's more coming. Um, I just have to be, I guess, more patient because, but it's something that I have to learn maybe because,
Oh yeah,
the message is gonna come, but the anxiety of getting it right and all that, I guess, probably what makes me write really quick or makes all the other mediums write quick too. I don't know.
yeah. It's even Chico when he was writing. There are videos of him writing, and he would write very quickly, right? And he would
Right.
have to read what he wrote because sometimes people could not understand. And he would use, he would write with big letters, and there were lots of pages, right? Now, when that was the latest parts, right? When he received the books and Divaldo the same, they would do by themselves alone in the room. And then they would, after that, they would read and make the necessary adjustments, corrections. Chico Xavier was said that when he was receiving the historical books of Emmanuel, as he was receiving, he was living, participating in the scene. He was seeing what he was writing. So he was again a mechanical medium. So he was writing without awareness of what he was writing, but he was there presentially in the scenes as the scenes were happening. It happened in Paul Stephen 2,000 years ago. So you can only imagine how fascinated he must have been, right, as you are watching a movie, being part of the movie, right? I don't think we can even fully understand what it is, but that was when he was receiving the historical books by Emmanuel. But when he was receiving the letters from the loved ones, which was the latest stage of his life, he would normally receive the communication and see the spirit communicating, right? And sometimes he would mention it. You just feel, right, Fabio? You don't see any. Or sometimes you see the spirit that is communicating, not the spirit in as other people, just talking about the psychography.
No, but it feels like scenes of a movie occasionally, depending on the context. But again, it's just flashes. But no, I never see the ones that are communicating with me. But as you know, occasionally, rarely, I see very clearly the ones that are communicating with the others.
Yeah. Thanks, Fabio. Rogério, anything to add here on your side here?
It's interesting because that's how it started. When I transitioned from Umbanda to Spiritism, the first sort of manifestations were through writing. And the first couple ones was literally not writing, was just circling the page. When I guess I was just learning sort of this capability, right? I think that I'm going through what's most useful today. But if anything, what I can add here, like I am clearly a semi-mechanical, psych medium of psychography, because there's a millisecond before the words come out or on the page that I process and I know it's coming out. But I wouldn't know if I left my hand on the page, although I'm getting the message, you go regardless, right? So it's a very clear to me, like when you talk about semi-mechanical, is exactly what I am. Like that's like just before the word comes out, but it's all mechanical in the sense that I'm not, my hand's just laying on the page and the words are coming out. But I do process just the millisecond before it comes out. I know it's going to come out. Although I don't have any influence, right? But I just, it's processed in the brain. So I think this process for me, when it's that particular things, it's very black and white, because that's exactly how he processes in my personal case.
Semi-mechanical, which
Yeah.
is the most common.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jose.
Yep.
So next here is the polyglot mediums. Those who have the faculty of speaking or writing a known language. Is very rare. Okay. Nowadays it's called xenoglossy, right? This is a term that didn't exist in the time of Kardec. That's why he called polyglot. It was a term created around the beginning of the 20th century by Charles Richet. Xenoglossy, it's not a very common term, but it's the ability to speak or write in languages that you don't speak. Now, studying mediumship and studying spiritism, we learn that for you to be able to write or speak in a language that you are not speaking in the present incarnation, it has to be stored in your memory, subconscious memory. You are not going to be able to write or speak Russian as a medium if you never learned Russian in your life or previous lives. You have to have had the contact with Russian in a previous existence, right? So this is something that, of course, at the time of Kardec, everything was new, but later was studied and understood that it is the ability to write or speak in a language that you do not write or speak in the present existence. I was witness once in my almost 30 years working in mediumship meetings of a medium that gave a communication in a Slavic language. I think it was Russian. If it was Polish, I would know because I recognize it. It was not. I think it was Russian. The medium didn't speak Russian. Nobody was able to understand anything, but the communication happened and it was very interesting. So what is the purpose? Sometimes the purpose is just to enlighten the participants that it is possible, that it happens, to call the attention to them if there is someone. In our case, in that was like almost probably 30 years ago or something like that. It was probably 2000 or it was not. It was even before SGNY was open. It was in the other center that I was participating in the mediumship meeting. One of the persons that participated in the meeting, in the mediumship meeting, was very interesting because he was in the meeting. He was a medium, but he doubted. He had serious doubts on everything. I don't remember exactly why. It's a long time ago, but I know that he wasn't very comfortable with all the work. He was a medium. He was an ostensive medium. He would give communications, but he wasn't comfortable. So I maybe, and again, it's my conclusion that maybe it was for him, but I don't know. But it's a very interesting phenomenon. It happens. I know it happens to other. Divaldo was able to receive in French. Chico Xavier received communications in English, and he didn't speak English. The book, Amongst Brothers of Other Lands, there are communications that he received in English. And of course, he didn't speak English in his incarnation. But, it's a very interesting ability, and it has a purpose. It has a purpose to help those that are still doubting. I have with me Divaldo in 2004 in the Spiritist World Congress in Paris, received a communication from Leon Denis, written backwards, right? That you had to put in front of a mirror to read it. And I kept a copy of it. I have still today with me the copy of the communication by Leon Denis. I forgot what is the right word to describe this type of communication, which is written backwards. But that was Divaldo receiving at the end of the World Spiritist Congress in 2004, which is very interesting. It's a full page message from Leon Denis, written backwards. Okay, and the last here, again, at the time of Kardec, people who know how to read and write were the minority. Nowadays, people who don't know how to read and write are the big minority, so we wouldn't have illiterate mediums, basically. But it's interesting that they have the ability to write, even if they cannot read or write in their normal state. We of Kardec talks about much rarer because there is a great physical difficulty to overcome. Yes, if you've never written anything, how your hand is not trained to write. So for the spirit to make your hand write, it's very hard. It is possible, but it's very hard. I think nowadays that will be almost non-existent because most people know how to, at least to write basics, sign their names or things like that. It's very rare that you have to find someone who doesn't know how to read or write and is a medium and participates in a mediumship meeting. Not impossible, because there are still people, if you go to Brazil, there are still probably like 5% of the population that is literate in the interior, but it's unlikely that we'll see that. Okay, any comments, questions here? Okay, so according to the development of the faculties, right?
Okay. Novice mediums, those whose faculties are not yet completely developed and who do not yet possess the necessary experience. Unproductive mediums, those who only receive unimportant things, monosyllables, letters, or strokes. Developed or fully formed mediums, those who have their mediumistic faculties fully developed and who transmit communications easily, rarely and without hesitation. We should understand that these mediums' abilities can only be obtained through practice, whereas among novice mediums, the communications are slow and difficult. Laconic mediums, those who receive communications easily, but which are brief and undeveloped. Explicit mediums, those who receive broad and lengthy communications, like those one would expect from a consummate writer. This aptitude is related to the ease with which the fluids are combined. Spirits seek out these mediums in order to address subjects that require great development. Experienced mediums, ease of writing is a matter of practice and can be obtained relatively quickly, whereas experience is the result of seriously studying all the difficulties that may arise in the practice of Spiritism. Ex- ex- Experience confers upon mediums the necessary tact for appraising the nature of the spirits who manifest, for determining through the smallest indications their good or evil qualities, and for discerning the trickery of deceptive spirits who disguise themselves with the appearance of truth. We easily comprehend the importance of this quality, without which all others would lose their real usefulness. The problem is that many mediums confuse experience, the fruit of study, with an ability arising solely from the organism. They deem themselves to be masters because they write easily, but they reject all counsel and become the prey of deceitful and hypocritical spirits who latch onto them by flattering their pride. Flexible mediums, those who possess faculties that more easily lend themselves to diverse kinds of communications, and through whom all or nearly all spirits can manifest either spontaneously or through evocation. This variety of medium is very close to the sensitive medium, to the sensitive type. Exclusive mediums, those who are preferred by a certain spirit, even to the exclusion of all others. This spirit responds in the stead of all others who are called through the medium. This always results from a lack of flexibility. When the spirit is good, it may link itself to the medium out of affinity and for a praiseworthy purpose. When it is evil, however, it always aims to submit the medium to its control. It is more of a defect than a quality and is very close to obsession. Mediums for evocations. Flexible mediums are naturally more appropriate for this kind of communication and are more able to respond to the specific questions that are addressed to them. However, for cases of evocation, there are also entirely specialized mediums. Their responses are almost always confined to a limited area and are incompatible with the development of general topics. Mediums for spontaneous communications. Those who receive spontaneous communications by spirits who have not been called. When mediums have this faculty, it is difficult and sometimes impossible to evoke spirit by using them as an intermediary. Nevertheless, they are better equipped than those of the evocation variety. The term equipped should be understood as referring to the cerebral elements because a more developed intelligence is often more necessary. I would even say always necessary for spontaneous communications than for evocations. Here, spontaneous communications means those that truly merit the designation and not a few incomplete sentences or a few banal thoughts that are generally found in human remarks.
Okay, thanks, Zoraida. Okay, so one thing that is important for us to remember always, right? Mediums are not, the types of mediumships are not separate boxes that a medium has only one type. A medium is a medium. He or she can receive communications from spirits. Normally, a medium has more than one ability, but sometimes they focus on the ability that is more useful for the work that they are doing, right? So for our mediumship meetings that we have on SGNY, we have mediumship meetings of help and assistance to suffering spirits. So in terms of helping and assistance to suffering spirits, we need mediums that communicate mostly through psychophony and that can give access to suffering spirits, being able to control the communication of the spirits without preventing them from manifesting what they feel, but not acting out in terms of physical actions that are going to disturb the study, or words that are not appropriate words to use. Now, there are meetings, mediumship meetings, where you are going to receive messages for the ones present here, right? I know that one of the oldest groups, spiritist groups here, that was founded by Edgar Crespo in New York in 1936, still works in Florida. His daughter works still, and they receive their meetings are just to receive messages for the ones present, right? So they need mediums that are capable of receiving communications from spirits that will give communications for their loved ones. I'm not questioning the validity of the meeting and the credibility that you are going to have from the communications. It's just a matter of explaining the different types. I know of a group in Brazil that is focusing in doing evocations on. And evocations in terms of the same way that Kardec was receiving at his time, right? Asking the spirits question. They want to learn. They want to learn more about the spiritual world and learn more about questions related to our life here and how we should relate to the spiritual world. So it's a mediumship meeting of evocation. So the mediums that are there should be mediums focused on evocation. The vast majority of mediumship meetings that happens in Brazil in spiritist centers are the same type that we do here at SGNY, which is of help and assistance to the spirits in need. And we do that as a means to educate ourselves, right? Because, of course, an obvious question for those that are new to Spiritism is, well, if in a mediumship meeting you have, I don't know how many, and you have 150,000 discarnations every day, how can you help? What difference are you going to make? And the answer is, we're not working to help, to solve the problems of the spirits. We are working to educate ourselves, the workers of the mediumship meeting. And in the process, we are helping a small number of spirits, of course, because it's not only the spirits that are communicating, there are other spirits that are listening, and so on and so forth. So, going back to the book here. So we have the mediums, the beginner mediums that are beginning to learn, right? Their faculties are not completely developed. They don't have the experience. Many times they question themselves if what they are receiving is from themselves. It's not animism, which is the medium receiving from themselves. So it is necessary. They have to go through it. It's a part of the education. In Brazil, they have this mediumship courses that takes 3 years, and only on the 3rd year you are going to start developing your mediumship or educating your mediumship, because either you have or you don't develop. If you have it, you educate it and you start to use it. Now, as you train and you become more of a medium, you can become an unproductive medium, right? So you have this, normally we ask all the developing mediums, the novice mediums, to start working with a pencil and paper so they can start writing something. And in the very beginning, they only receive monosyllables, letters, strokes, or unintelligible words. These are part of the development of a medium, right? It becomes a problem when after a certain period of time, they continue not receiving anything productive. Then we have to analyze if the medium is not a productive medium, and it's not able to really work as a full medium. But normally it's rare. We had one case in our group of someone that took 2 years to start giving communications because the medium was questioning herself that she wasn't comfortable in allowing the communications to come because she wasn't sure that he was a spirit, that she wasn't comfortable with her mediumship. But after 2 years, finally she started receiving communications, and the communications came out cleanly and came out without any major problems, and she became a fully developed, fully formed medium, and she worked for some years there with us until she got pregnant and had to step away from the mediumship meeting because it's a question, right? Can you work as a medium if you're pregnant? Yes, you can, as long as it's not disturbing you. If you're not too worried, if you're physically unable to do it, then you should stop. So first 3, 4, 6 months, it's not a problem, but if the medium feels uncomfortable, they can stop working. Again, we need to think about our physical health before. So develop a fully formed mediums, those that have the faculties fully developed and who transmit communications easily, rapidly, and without hesitation. Rogério, Fábio, Alessandra, Ale, they are all fully formed mediums. They give communications with ease, of course. It's not without struggling physically sometimes because they feel what the spirit is feeling, so they can struggle physically and feel the spirit sometimes the day before. Laura mentions a lot of times that she starts feeling uncomfortable one day before. Rogério also recently mentioned that he's learning to deal with it, right? The knowing that the spirit starts connecting the day before, and what he's feeling is not really physically related to him, but to the spirit that is preparing to communicate in the next day. So these are all normal experiences that fully formed mediums go through. Laura, many times on the day of the meeting, she has all sorts of different feelings, and Laura is a medium of physical and intellectual effects, so she accumulates all these feelings, and it's sometimes hard for her to deal with all of them. Then we have the laconic mediums, those who receive communications easily, but which are brief and undeveloped. I haven't seen of this type of medium. I can see how it can happen. In my opinion, would be a lack of dedication of the medium to the work, because they don't develop their mediumship, don't educate their mediumship enough to fully receive the communications. So they lack something, and my opinion would be more responsibility of the medium than of the faculty itself, right? The explicit mediums are those who are able to receive fully broad and lengthy communications. Again, Chico, Xavier, Givaldo would write books. The mediums that write books, the mediums that participate in our meetings, Jussara would receive lengthy messages that she would read. The mediums, I think the most experienced psychographic mediums are capable of receiving lengthy communications. They would be the explicit mediums. It's related to the ease with which the fluids are combined, right? Again, when we're talking about writing psychographic communication, so the spirits that are writing nowadays in our groups are the mentors. So they would choose the spirits that have the ability to write according to what they need to communicate. The experienced mediums, easy of writing, and it is a matter of practice, right? Experience means that when the medium is receiving the communication, again, this is the time of Kardec, they know the type of spirit that is communicating. and they are able to reflect what type of communication is coming, right? So if it's a suffering spirit giving a communication, Jusara received a lot of testimonies that are in her book Transcendence. She would feel the type of spirit that was communicating, and she could relate to us what type of spirit was communicating, right? Fabio, I know he feels the spirit that is communicating, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
anything you can add here in terms of different types of spirits? If you feel, a spirit that is, because you said that the more evolved spirits, it seems that they throw from the above the message and you receive and you write, right? They don't stay long. But a spirit that is sort of a more, let's say, a testimony that you receive sometimes. Can you feel or see the spirit?
Vaguely, and it's occasionally also the smell. It's alcohol or cigarettes, but it's very faint and it's very sudden and it goes away. It's funny to even describe it as a smell because it feels like it's a memory of a smell. But visually, it's rarely to see mine, but the other ones, again, occasionally also come the cause or parts from the body or things like that.
Yeah. So what Kardec mentions here, the problem is that many mediums confuse experience with an ability of arising from the organism. Meaning the mediums, the more extensive mediums, they easily receive the communications, but if they don't educate themselves, they may fall prey to deceiving spirits because they don't know how to differentiate the spirits that are communicating. So study brings experience, brings understanding of the feelings that they are going through. Flexible mediums are mediums that can receive different types that have different types of mediumship. Most mediums are flexible mediums. Of course, not all of them will have all types of mediumships, but a good example was, is Jussara. Jussara, when she was working in the beginning in Brazil, in the mediumship meetings, she was a seeing medium, right? The work that she was doing in the center there, she was young, was to report what she was seeing so the dialoguers could have an understanding of what type of spirit they are dealing with, and also describing what she was seeing in terms of helping and assisting those participants in the mediumship meeting. When we moved to London, and then she started working in the mediumship meeting there in London, they had no interest in the seeing mediums, and they have no use for seeing mediums for their own way of doing the work. So Jussara started psychophony and psychography there in London, and she started using both of them, and she reduced the use of seeing mediums. Of course, she still has it, but after that, she focused more on psychography and psychophony, and lately, at a time in our group SGNY that we had many mediums working and we had to divide the group in two, there was a time that she and Fabio would go outside the main room, in the small room, just for the psychographies, because we didn't have time for all these mediums of psychophony to communicate. So they focused only on psychography. And so, these flexible mediums are those that are capable of different types of communication according to the necessity. Fabio is the one we use today when we have many mediums, mediums of psychophony. He works only on psychography and seeing mediums. When we need him to work as a medium of psychophony, like last Monday, he works as a medium of psychophony. So flexible mediums, right? the exclusive mediums, it becomes something of a problem here, right? Mediums that are able to receive only one type of spirit are very suspicious in our mediumship meetings, because this is most likely an obsession. An evolved spirit, it's like the ones that Fabio described, will come, bring a message, and leave. A suffering spirit will come, bring the message, be assisted, and removed by the mentors of the directors of the meeting. If a medium is receiving the same type of spirit or the same type of communication, we have to be a little bit concerned, because it may be a case of animism or a case of obsession. Animism. If the type of communication is always the same, a spirit from a certain time of a certain epoch, we had one of those in our group. He started receiving only communications from spirits that were in the Napoleon Wars. So it was only soldiers or spirits from the Napoleon Wars. And of course, we reached the conclusion of a certain time that it was animism. It was his own experience in the Napoleonic Wars that he was retrieving from his unconscious and giving communication. Again, there is nothing especially wrong with it. It's just that we need to understand and differentiate. We are really not helping a spirit there. We are helping the medium himself because of his the animism. So it's type of a psychological assistance to the medium, and eventually he has to go away, because the medium, if he wants to work or she wants to work as a medium, you have to move away from the animism. But it happens. We had a case. Eventually, the medium left the group, so we don't have a conclusion for his case. But the problem with becoming an obsession is the obsessor takes over the medium, prevents the medium from receiving communication from other spirits, and it's very important for the group to understand that that's the case, and have a dialogue with the medium. It's not with the spirit, with the medium, for the medium for the work of obsession to be done, right? Sometimes the medium has to take a time from the meeting so the obsessed and obsessor can be treated. There are different ways of dealing with it, but it is always a serious issue, right? We haven't dealt with that in our group that I remember. We see outside of Spiritism mediums that receive communication only from one spirit, and they have because of lack of understanding, have a tendency to idolize the spirits that are communicating through them. They are incapable of seeing that they are under an obsession. They would never accept it. But we see many mediums publishing works from one spirit only. And what we can say, we cannot affirm that is an obsession, but we can say that it is very dangerous, because a good medium will receive communications from different spirits, all types of spirits, mentors, suffering spirits, evil spirits, all types of different spirits. So if you are an exclusive medium, you're very likely a victim of obsession, okay? We talked a little bit about mediums for evocations, right? Mediums that are more useful for evocations, meaning the evocation is you direct the questions to a specific type of spirit. So let's say that you are in a meeting and you want to talk to your grandmother. So you use a medium of evocation. I want to communicate with my grandmother, and the grandmother comes and gives the communication. What are the dangerous things here? We don't know if the grandmother is able to communicate. Maybe she's there struggling in the spiritual world. Maybe she's in the lower zones. Maybe she's not aware of what's happening here and she cannot give communication. Two things can happen. Deceiving spirit can take the place of the grandmother and give a deceiving communication, or if the person asking for it has the merit and the medium also, a spirit in the name of the grandmother can give the communication to help and assist. This is very common in cases of suicides, right? That the parents are desperate to receive a message from their son or daughter that committed suicide, and they go to these mediums that receive letters from loved ones, and they receive a communication from their child that has committed suicide, and the communication is very clear in the sense that the information there is from the deceased spirit, but many times the suicide is in no condition of giving the communication. So a mentor, a protecting spirit, a familiar spirit will take the place of the loved one and give the communication to help and serve as consolation for the family. Most mediums that receive this, serious mediums that receive letters from loved ones nowadays, they work not as an evocation, but as a receptor of messages that, you have a group of people there, they will receive a message without knowing exactly to whom. They will read the message and someone from the public will say that it is for them. This is a safer way of communication of a loved one. But this group that is working with evocation in the meeting that I spoke with them, they are specifically asking questions from spirits on specific themes, and they are receiving the answers, and they want to produce books or works the same way that Kardec did, and that's why they are doing this work. It's an interesting type of work, and the results, we'll see how it happens. It's something new. They started doing it a couple of years ago. Mediums for spontaneous communications are most of the mediums that we work with nowadays, right? They receive spontaneous communications from spirits who have not been called. That's the work we do. The work of helping and assisting rescue or of disobsession. We receive spirits that are in a suffering state, and of course the mediums that receive, they are not invoking or they are not calling the spirits, they are opening themselves to receive the communication for the spirits, and the choice is normally made by the directors of the group in the spiritual world, the mentors. They are the ones that choose and allow the communication to go through, and they are the ones that control the type of communications that are coming through. Okay, this is the most common one in our mediumship meeting. Okay, any questions, comments here? Okay, so 193, Soraya.
Yes. According to the type and specialty of the communications, verse-making mediums, those who most easily receive communications in verse, very common for bad verse, very rare for good verse. Poetic mediums, although they do not receive verse per se, they do receive communications of vaporous, sentimental style without any harsh quality about them. They are more able than the others at expressing tender and affectionate sentiments. Everything in their communications is vague, and it would not be worthwhile to require anything precise from them. Very common. Positive mediums. Generally, their communications display a clean and precise character, which spontaneously lends itself to circumstantial details and exact teachings. Very rare. Literary mediums. Those who do not display the vague tone of poetic mediums or the down-to-earth tone of positive mediums, but who write with sarcasticity. Their style is correct, eloquent, and frequently of notable eloquence. Incorrect mediums, those who obtain very good communications and thoughts displaying irreproachable morality, but whose style is diffused, incorrect, and full of repetitious and improper terms. The material incorrectness of style usually stems from medium's lack of education. This type of medium consequently does not serve as a good instrument for the spirit. However, the spirit attaches little importance to this matter, since for it thought is what is essential, and so it leaves the medium free to provide the appropriate form. The same does not apply to erroneous and illogical ideas that may be communicated, which are always an indication of the low evolutionary degree of the manifesting spirit. Historian mediums, those who have a special aptitude for historical dissertations. Like all others, this faculty does not depend on the medium's own knowledge, for there are uneducated individuals, even children, who address subjects far beyond their reach, a rare variety of positive mediums. Scientific mediums, we do not say scientists, because these may be very uneducated. Despite this, however, they are especially able to receive communications related to the sciences. Medical mediums, their specialty is that of most easily serving spirits as interpreters for medical prescriptions. They must not be confused with healing mediums, because they do nothing more than transmit the spirit's thought and do not exert any influence in and of themselves. Quite common. Religious mediums, those who more especially receive communications of a religious character or address questions related to religion, notwithstanding their own beliefs and practices. Philosophical and moralist mediums, those who communications generally address moral issues or profound philosophy, very common for moral issues. All these nuances comprise a diversity in the aptitudes of good mediums. As for those who have special aptitudes for certain scientific, historical, medical, and other communications above their current reach, we can be certain that they possess such knowledge in another existence and have retained it in a latent state, thereby making a part of the cerebral elements needed for spirit's communication. These elements are what make it easy for the spirit to transmit its own ideas, since these mediums are for the spirit instruments who are more intelligent and malleable than an ignorant one would be, Evarist. Mediums for trivial and obscene communications. These words indicate the kind of communications that certain mediums habitually receive and the nature of the spirits who transmit them. Whoever has studied the spirit world in all its degrees knows that there are spirits whose perversity is on par with that of the most depraved individuals, and who are pleased to express their thoughts through the grossest words. Others who are less abject contain themselves the trivial expressions. It is understandable that these mediums should desire to free themselves from being preferred by such spirits and aspire to be like those who receive communications that never display an unseemly word. Only through a strange mental aberration and a lack of good sense could one believe that such language could come from good spirits.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So again, we can talk here mediums. Kardec is putting every different medium in different boxes, but we have mediums that are capable of having most of what Kardec describes here. I was reading it when Soraya was reading. I was thinking of Chico Xavier, and we are going to talk about him a lot here when this type of communication, right? So, first thing, verse-making mediums and poetic mediums, meaning verse-making mediums are those that can receive communications in verse, and as Kardec says here, common for bad verse, very rare for good verse, right? Poems that are beautiful poems are rare. If they were common, we would not be talking about beautiful poetry, and most of the poetry is not beautiful, right? There's a lot of the poems that are just poems. The poetic mediums here, what he's talking about is not receiving verse, but communications more in a sentimental style. It's just beautiful literary communications that have a poetic sense, but it is not a poem per se. The communication, he says here, is vague, and we shouldn't expect anything precise from it. It's general, beautiful words that serve to enlighten us, that serves to inspire us. Many of the communications received by mediums from mentors in the end of our meetings are of this type, right? I know that Rogério and Laura receives messages, psychophonic messages from mentors at the end of our meetings that are very poetic, but they are not a poem, they are not a verse, right? Jussara receives poems from the spirits, and there are some in her books that are really beautiful poems, which is not in terms of poetic words, they are poems. Then he talks about positive mediums, clean, precise character, exact teachings, circumstantial details, the works of Chico Xavier, the messages he received. He's Divaldo, also a positive medium. Kardec says very rare. And of course, when we're talking about Chico and Divaldo, they are very rare. Literary mediums. At the time of Kardec, we still didn't have the literary books, right? But after that, we have many. Only in Brazil, we have Zilda Gama in the beginning of the 20th century, Ivone Pereira, that we have Memoirs of a Suicide and other books. We have Chico and we have Divaldo. They are all literary mediums receiving works that can be published as a book, different types of books, but as a book. Style is correct, elegant, and frequently of notable eloquence, right? Of course, there are a large number of books being published nowadays. Many claim to be from spirits. We can question that because they are using it for personal profit. And some are from spirits, but with not so good quality. So again, we need to be aware and be concerned with substance. With this, even if sometimes the style is correct, elegant, there is not much depth in it, right? And he talks about incorrect mediums, which are mediums that receive good messages, but it's not displayed in the correct way. What type of this he's talking about? These are the sensitive mediums, right? The ones that receive the message and then write by themselves the message. Again, we're talking about the the time of Kardec. So if a medium didn't know well how to write and receive a message and was going to write according to their own knowledge of writing, he or she was going to write a good message in an incorrect and improper terms and repetitions because of his or her own lack of ability to write. Nowadays it's much more difficult because everyone knows how to write basically, right? But it is, in the sense here, what Kardec is trying to say is we have a good communication coming from a medium that is not so efficient in a way of delivering the communication, and that would be what he calls incorrect mediums, right? Then we have all these classifications: historical, scientific, medical, religious, philosophical. All 5 of them, Chico Xavier received this type of communications. Emmanuel, historical books, André Luiz, scientific books, mechanics of mediumship and evolution into worlds. Medical mediums, Chico would receive sometimes prescriptions for those that were suffering. Of course, religious mediums, all the beautiful works that Chico received through Emmanuel, through Mei, through Brother X, that has a lot of religious messages, enlightening messages, and philosophical, again, moralist mediums. We are going to see communications received by Chico, by Divaldo, that are philosophical in the sense that they discuss a little bit deeper philosophy and moral and less science and religion, right? But when we talk about moral, we are talking about religion. It's interchangeable, okay? Very common for moral issues, many of the messages that we receive. And then we have a very important message from Erastus, that he talks about the diverse aptitudes of the good mediums, that he mentions that they must have in their subconscious, they must possess such knowledge from another existence and have retained in a latent state. That's when we talk about xenoglasy, right? It's exactly that. They have it somewhere, and they have in their cerebral elements the tools for the communication, right? So these are the elements that make it easy for the spirit to transmit its own ideas, since the mediums are, for the spirits, just the instrument, and they are more intelligent and malleable than a less capable medium would be, so they can give their communications. And finally, when he talks about mediums for trivial and obscene communications, of course, mediums that receive communications from less evolved spirits and will end up giving communications that, according to guidance from Emmanuel and Joana de Angelis, are the communications we should just throw away. Should not even read. If we receive these communications and we are aware of what's being written, and if we see that it is not relevant, we can read if it's as an instruction of what type of communication to discard for the group to learn, or we can just throw away if it's not useful. Remember that Joana de Angelis gave Divaldo many communications and told him to throw away everything that he have received, because then he would start she would start the work with him, and the psychological series that she started producing with him in the 90s was something that she worked very long with him, preparing him to receive the type of work that the psychological series of Joana de Angelis is the result of. Okay, We're not going to go into the next item, which is actually, we still have some items to go here in this chapter. So we are going to leave for next month, starting on 194. Okay. Any final comments, questions here?
Sean, just a piece of experience. I think when I started my journey in psychography as part of my daily, so I had written, or thought I had written many good messages, right? And obviously I was under the influence of obsessors, and at the very beginning it was difficult, as I told you here before. But I had quite a bit of like writings, right? And some of them are very opulent and it may sounded very interesting. But then at one point, working with spirit guide, and he said, okay, you did a very good job in being influenced by, it was very good training ground for you, but everything you wrote so far, it was quite a lot. Throw it out, right? You just said this is for your knowledge, how you can be influenced very easily, and think of like different time in my life. But it was, at the time for me, it was very heartbreaking because it was a lot of writings, right? And to his, he's like, it was just training ground. It was just like open door to different spirits training, and we let it happen because you needed the education. It was painful, and I think it's just part of growth, right? And I think it could be just looking at obscene writing and all that. And sometimes it's just a really good training ground for mediums, right? Like to go through that process and eventually being stopped and say, here's, you didn't waste time, basically. That's basically what I took out of it. You just learn that, you have to start putting through some sort of like rationale of everything that you've been writing, and you've been just taking things for face value and never thought about it. You didn't waste time, but you did sort of went through this training ground of a very long journey to realize that you're just being obsessed and being like, guided by spirits that are just trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, but the important thing here is your understanding and acceptance of all this, because many mediums would not do that. They would try to hang to their work and believe it is important. I have to preserve, I have to publish, and that's why we end up finding a lot of garbage out there in terms of communications, right? So you had the good sense of accepting the instructions and throwing away all this many works that you have produced, and then you continue working. That's why you developed in a good medium and without influences from the spirit, disturbing influences from the spirits today, right?
Yeah, and interesting, that day I received that message, I think the first thing I actually psychographed, you finally graduated. That was the first kind of writing. And then I was like, graduated from what? I'm thinking, you continue writing. It's like, everything you wrote so far is just good training practice, blah, blah, blah. But it was just basically, I had a specific day where he's just like, that's the beginning of the message. You're finally graduated. And I just remember that because at the time, and again, now in retrospect, I can only imagine, like, I could never be producing, I could never be connecting with spirits of higher order at that point in my life because of where I was emotionally, and all the stuff. But the thing hindsight, right? Like at the time I thought I was, trying, and again, it's part of growth, but it was just the beginning of the message. You finally graduated. It's just like, okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rogério.
Yeah.
Yes, Wayne.
It just makes me wonder what kind of spirit communicator I would be, or what I have been. It's because I'm silly at times, and so it just makes me think. There's such a list there. When I try to fit, which category would I fit in at this point? It's very interesting.
We would fit in the way we are, right? So
right.
If you're giving a communication with your present knowledge, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're giving communication pretending to be what you are not, then it would be a problem, right? So it's just a matter of self-awareness and self-understanding and relevance, right, of the communication. You're going to give communication, it has to be relevant for the medium, for the group. Otherwise, but there is always the direction and guidance of the spiritual mentors in a mediumship meeting. So they would also control the type of communications. All right, thank you all. So next Sunday we are going to have our Q&A session. Please bring your questions. Our book club is on a summer break. Our other meetings will continue happening regularly. Our website is it's new, and we redid it and republish it, so it's easier to access, easier to purchase books, easier to ask for prayers, and to have more information about Spiritism. sgny.org is our website. Okay, Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, John, for hosting our meeting today. Thank you, Sarita, for reading for us also. And thank you, everyone, for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Medium's book, Chapter 16, entitled Special Mediums, and the topic being Varieties of Writing Mediums. There are those mediums who have the ability to write with the influence of the spirits, which connects their perispirit to perispirit. There are mechanical mediums, semi-mechanical, which are the most common, and intuitive mediums. Also, polygraphical mediums, polyglot, and illiterate mediums, and a variety of other mediums, those who are developing their communication faculties, such as novice, unproductive, developed, laconic, which is underdeveloped or undeveloped, explicit mediums, experience and flexible, exclusive, and mediums for evocations, and spontaneous communication mediums. Also, the specialty of communications by mediums are verse making, poetic, positive, literary, and incorrect mediums. Also, those who favor history, scientific, medical, religious, philosophical, or those who are actually trivial and present obscene communications. It is great that we have all these abilities available, those that are developing and those who are already there. We appreciate all the wealth of knowledge, the information, and the ongoing aptitude and study, which brings greater awareness not only to the medium, but also for those who are participating in a group or hearing and receiving the communications. We give thanks today for our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for being here and guiding us each time we are together. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants wherever they are. We pray now for inner peace, and especially for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center SGNY and all spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, they may prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, our friends, loved ones, and our co-workers. And may we remind ourselves now to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.